While this dog was swimming calmly in the river, something jumped onto his back and wouldn't let go until they reached the shore. You won't believe what it was. Don't go too far. Megan yelled at her dog, Wally, as he swam farther away from her. Even though he was usually sweet, Wally didn't care about anything when he was in the water. He ignored his owner and kept looking for sticks or strange objects floating in the river. Megan watched him with affection, chuckling at his playful behavior. Megan Gardner had taken her dog to his favorite swimming spot, Hickory Hills Lake in Massachusetts. With his protective vest on, Wally played around in the water for hours until Megan called him to come home. He started to swim back to the shore, though he did so slowly and a bit reluctantly. As he neared the shore, Megan saw something coming out of the water. It climbed onto Wally's back and stayed there as he continued swimming. At first, Megan wasn't sure what it was and hoped it wasn't anything that could hurt her dog. She watched carefully and tried not to startle the animal. When Wally got closer, Megan finally saw what was on his back. She was puzzled that Wally didn't seem to notice it, but that was typical of him. Wally didn't care about anything when he was swimming and often ignored Megan's attempts to get him out of the water with food. He was the first dog Megan had ever met who loved taking baths, even though their first encounter with water had been scary for both of them. Megan had adopted Wally when he was a puppy. He was found on the streets by a shelter, and his mother was missing. Megan decided to volunteer at the shelter around that time and was there when Wally was brought in for treatment. Watching the small dog fight for his life deeply affected her. Although she only intended to volunteer once, she stayed and helped as the puppy recovered. Over time, he went from being a shy animal to a lively one. Megan had never had a pet before, but when the shelter was ready to put Wally up for adoption, she immediately signed up to adopt him. The staff noticed how much care she had given the puppy during his recovery, and since he was already familiar with her, she was the perfect person to adopt him. As a Labrador, Wally was very active, and Megan enjoyed taking him to the park where he could meet other dogs and make friends. He was also fiercely protective of her and would try to stand between her and strangers or anyone he was uncomfortable with. Megan often laughed off his protective behavior and appreciated the dog for looking after her. But she never truly understood how much Wally cared for her until he put his life on the line one summer afternoon. Megan was enjoying a swim in her pool while some friends were over for lunch. A skilled swimmer, she was grateful for her home pool. She had left Wally inside because he was sleeping, but while she floated peacefully, she suddenly heard loud barking. She looked up just in time to see Wally jumping into the pool for the first time. He struggled to swim towards her, and Megan quickly scooped him up, apologizing for scaring him. Wally's reaction showed he wanted to help her, thinking she was in trouble. After drying Wally, Megan rejoined her friends. The next day, Wally was curious about the pool's edge. Megan gently placed him in the water and joined him. Wally moved carefully in the pool and soon got tired, but it was clear he loved being in the water. He would eagerly join Megan for swims and even swim on his own when she was out of the pool. While Megan was happy about Wally's love for the pool, she was concerned about leaving him alone in deep water. She knew it could be dangerous for dogs to swim unsupervised. She didn't want Wally to find himself in that situation, so Megan placed a small fence between the grass and the pool area, hoping that Wally would understand and stop jumping right into the pool. The fence wasn't the strongest since it had been hastily done to keep the dog out, but she thought it would do the trick anyway. The next time Wally rushed out for a swim, he immediately stopped in his tracks at the side of the fence. He was surprised to see it there and walked around it, trying to figure out a way to get through. Megan was pleased that her plan had worked, but she didn't realize that Wally had a plan of his own. He ran to the end of the fence, which butted up against the shed. He figured that it was the weakest part of the fence. The puppy stuck his snoot under it and made enough room to wiggle his body through. Megan tried to stop him before he could make it all the way, but she was too late. The next thing she heard was a splash in the water and a bark coming from a very happy Wally. Seeing that the fence didn't keep Wally safe, Megan took him to a trainer and invested in safety equipment like a protective jacket. She scheduled his swims to ensure she was always there. As Wally grew older, he became an excellent swimmer, and Megan, who also loved swimming, enjoyed exploring rivers and other spots with him. Wally would eagerly test out any body of water and stay in it as long as possible. Megan was thrilled to see Wally so happy and realized his natural affinity for water was a trait of his breed. His swimming skills proved useful in unexpected ways. One afternoon, while Megan stayed on shore, Wally began barking and swimming deeper into the water. Despite her attempts to call him back, Wally continued until he returned with a small fawn in his mouth. The fawn was still and did not try to escape. This was the first time Wally had carried another animal while swimming. Megan quickly waded in, gently encouraged Wally to release the fawn, and together they brought it back to shore. Megan placed the baby deer on the ground, and Wally moved closer to its unmoving body and nudged it with his nose. When the fawn still didn't move, Wally tried to revive it with some loving licks and made soft whimpers as if begging the animal to wake up. Megan didn't know much about taking care of animals, but from what she saw, the baby deer hadn't passed away yet. It was barely breathing. Thankfully, Megan had formed a good relationship with the vet who looked after Wally, and when she told him what had happened, he agreed to come and take a look at the animal. However, before the vet could arrive, the fawn woke up and was scared to see both Megan and Wally standing in front of it. So it ran back into the water and tried to swim away, but it was still too weak to move and soon began drowning. Before Megan could react, Wally ran into the water and held on to the fawn. Megan entered to help him, and together they made it back to shore, this time holding on to the fawn more securely. When the vet arrived, he examined the animal and confirmed that it was too weak to look after itself. Something must have happened to its mother for the fawn to be completely alone. The animal had also suffered significant wounds and had an eye injury that would render it blind in one eye if nothing was done. The vet offered to take the little deer to an animal rescue facility for treatment until it was strong enough to be returned to the wild. Megan agreed, and after Wally said his goodbyes, the animal was taken away. The dog had shown that he had an intense capability to care for others, and today he was proving it once more. As Wally continued to make his way back to the shore, the animal stayed on his back without moving. Megan thought it was an otter, but as the dog drew closer, she realized that it was something completely unexpected. The animal on Wally's back was a woodchuck. Wally looked over his shoulder to see what was on him, but continued to swim as if it were nothing. Woodchucks are shy animals that tend to stay away from humans, but if one is near, they use aggressive techniques to try to scare them off. Megan couldn't figure out why the woodchuck was out for a swim. She wondered if it had a little one in trouble, and this was a way of asking for help, or maybe, just like her and Wally, the animal was trying to cool off in the hot summer sun, but later got tired of swimming and looked for somewhere to rest. Thankfully, Wally didn't seem to mind as much and even seemed pleased by the act. The only thing he loved almost as much as swimming was making new friends. This passion shone even more when he was around little kids, and he would always give them a kiss on the face when he saw them. There was almost no one that Wally didn't find a way to connect with, and they all cared about him as well. Maybe the woodchuck had realized that it could trust the Labrador not to hurt it. As they neared the shore, the woodchuck hopped off Wally's back and swam alongside him until they reached the land. The two animals briefly touched snouts before the woodchuck scampered off into the woods, disappearing from view. Megan fed Wally some snacks, but while he was eager to return to the water, she had had enough excitement for the day. Back home, Megan reflected on the unusual bond between Wally and the woodchuck and was impressed by Wally's patience. Megan shared pictures of the encounter on social media, where they received thousands of likes and positive comments. Some even suggested signing Wally up for lifeguard classes, which Megan found amusing. She knew Wally would always jump in to help if needed, but didn't want to turn his love for swimming into a job. Today, Wally's passion for swimming remains as strong as ever, and he continues to bring joy wherever he goes. What do you think of this story? Let us know in the comments section. I hope you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. Thank you.